Alrighty, so we got what should be a real explosive fight here. Got Alonzo Menifield versus William Knight. Alonzo will definitely be the bigger guy. He's got a 2-inch height advantage, a 3-inch reach advantage. He's also coming off his first KO loss, so we'll see how he reacts to that because he is pretty young. Like, he's not a young dude, but like he's fairly green in his career, and he has a lot of stuff that he can work on. So I'm interested to see how he reacts after that first KO loss. Maybe shores up his striking defense a little bit, but we'll see. For William Knight, he only started MMA like 3.5 years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago. I'm thinking of. All right, where are we? Yeah, so he started mid 2018. So under 3 years ago, he started MMA. So he's pretty quick to build up his record and get onto the UFC. He did have an extensive amateur career. I think it was, yeah, he did amateur for about 2 years, accumulating like, 8 fights? Yeah. But still, yeah, pretty green. Both these guys pretty green. Alright, let's get into the striking of these two. So for Menifield, he looks to land that overhand right or the straight right. He can overextend on the straight right pretty often, so he ends up falling into a clinch situation. And that's pretty much how he lost the Devin Clark fight. He was just outmatched in the clinch. But he was, initiating those clinches because he was overextending on his straight punches because he put so much into them. But in general, he keeps a high guard. Even at range, even when he's not really in his opponent's distance, he'll keep a high guard. He's trying to do everything right by his coaches. But still, just a few things when he closes the distance and stuff, his striking defense can kind of get a little bit lazy. But yeah, since he keeps that high guard open, the body attacks are open on him especially when he's versing like a southpaw fighter. But generally he's looking to land that counter 2, that straight right, or that right overhand. For William Knight, in my opinion, on the feet, he looks very uncomfortable. He looks, very uncomfortable on the feet. Especially, you can see what I'm talking about in the Ngannou fight. I believe I'm pronouncing that correct. The guy that's in the UFC now, he came off the Contender Series. Yeah, I think his name's Tefon Ngannou. I believe that's how you pronounce it. But he looked really uncomfortable in that fight, and I think he got knocked out in the first round. And I think Ngannou could sense it as well. But yeah, on the ground or in the wrestling exchanges is generally where a lot of William Knight's fights play out. I don't think his takedowns are like all that. I don't think he has very good takedowns at all. But he's just so strong, and he's, such an athlete that he sometimes just is able to pull techniques off that other people wouldn't just with brute force. If he's on bottom, he'll just kind of like bench press them off and like throw them off him pretty much. Like, he's a very strong dude. In scrambles, he has a very strong whizzer, or like if he's on bottom, he'll just like hook a whizzer and then just pretty much not even shrimp out, but just like stand up. He's just that strong and that athletic. But also, his opponents haven't been the greatest wrestlers and the greatest fighters that keep him top control. So if he were ever to verse like who's a top control guy in the light heavyweight division? If he were ever to verse like a Glove Teixeira, he wouldn't be able to get off bottom. It's probably an extreme example, but I can't think of any other dudes that go for top control that much in the light heavyweight division that are like near his rating. But yeah, he does look to be offensive on the ground. He looks to get opponents to the ground and then flatten them out and then land some ground and pound. His ground and pound's kind of weird. I don't know what's up with it, but yeah, it's just like weird technique that he uses to punch his opponents when he's on top. He kind of just like stiffens his arm out and then just swings with the side of his fist. Yeah, I'm not too sure, but it seems to be pretty effective because opponents generally can't take too much of it before they turtle up and try to get the ref off them. But yeah, So other things he does is that he will go for like, big man submissions like anacondas and like arm triangles. So stuff that you need to be very strong and need to have a very strong upper body with. That's tend to what he goes to on the ground, which is fair enough. That's what I'd recommend he does. But also, yeah, that overhook that I was talking about before, that he uses to get off bottom, he holds on for way too long, and his opponents have an opportunity to take the back there. He hasn't been punished for it too much in his career, but it's absolutely something that his opponents could punish him with. And for Alonzo Menifield, he will like react pretty, like it'll be a big reaction when his opponent feints a double leg on him. He'll pretty much look to sprawl immediately. You can tell that's just how he drills it, and he's coming from that college football background, so he's obviously very in tune with what his coaches say, and very fundamental. He tries to be very fundamental and try to listen to his coaches to the best of his ability. But yeah, sometimes he can, you do a million drills just like stuffing takedowns. And I feel like that's the kind of zone he's in when his opponent feints a double leg. He just automatically goes for that sprawl. So that can be exploited a little bit. But generally, William Knight doesn't do too much feigning. And also in the clinch, where Alonzo Menifield can be controlled, mostly he's just looking for his own control, just to push the opponent back against the fence. But he doesn't have too much offense in the clinch. He won't throw any knees or anything, or any shots to the body or anything. And William Knight, he actually does have some decent dirty boxing in the clinch. He'll grab onto a collar tie and start throwing some dirty boxing uppercuts. So Menifield does have to watch out for that. But we'll get into how these guys win their fights now. Alright, so William Knight, he has that natural strength, he's a natural athlete, as we discussed before, and that explosiveness that he has, I don't think he loses it over 15 minutes. He'll be tired, he'll be hands by his hips and stuff like that, but when he decides to go, he still is able to explode into his techniques, which is really impressive, and not a lot of people have that type of skill, or ability, I should say. Alright, so for Alonzo Menifield, his calling card is probably his power. He seems to have that raw power. His opponents don't like getting hit by him at all. His good takedown defense, his athleticism definitely helps there, because he has that good sprawl, and he's pretty much on command with that. But how these guys lose, for Alonzo Menifield, in my opinion, I don't think he has the greatest fight IQ. He was continuing to clinch with Devin Clark in the first round when he had him hurt. He was giving OSP heaps of space, and that's pretty much what OSP wants. He wants you to give space so he can land that body kick, especially when you're in orthodox stance. I don't think it was very, very smart of him to do that. But that's also on the coaches, because he's obviously very, I'm not sure the word, but when someone listens to their coach, you're very, not impressionable, but he's very in tune with his coaches, and he listens to pretty much everything they say. So if they came in with the right game plan, I feel like he would have stuck to that game plan and got the job done against OSP. But yeah, it's probably on his coaches. Who's he train with? Yeah, Fortis. Is he with Saif Saud? Yeah, I think his head coach Saif Saud. I don't know if Saif Saud's all that, to be honest. It's a good camp, in general. But some of the shit's Saif Saud says, I'm not sure about it. So for Alonzo, and I don't think his fighters listen to him. Obviously Alonzo has Saif Saud right in his ear, and he, he's very, he's acts on command for Saif Saud, but a lot of his fighters don't listen to Saif Saud. You'll notice that in their fights, Max Griffin and stuff like that. But in general, Fortis very good camp. And Saif Saud, yeah, he's a good coach, but some of the stuff he says, I'm not sure about it. So for Alonzo Menifield, how else he loses, he kind of slows in a high-paced fight after round 1, pretty much. He'll slow. And he also has trouble closing the distance against long fighters. Saw that against OSP. Also, his head doesn't move off center line very often. So he kind of eats jabs. For William Knight, his game lacks structure and proper technique, in my opinion. He doesn't seem to know what he's doing or have a plan when he comes into the fight. He seems to just make it up on the go, if I'm being honest. That's what I see. He'll also lean back with his chin in the air and kind of turn away from strikes. That's kind of what I was talking about as when I said he was uncomfortable on the feet. Also, yeah, that whizzer that he, uses every time he gets to his back or every time he gets off bottom. Easy back take for any skilled Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu players there. Also, his stand-up, I don't see much of a threat at all. He probably has raw power, in his hands, but, I've yet to see it in, a consistent, way, pretty much. Yeah, I just don't think he's that much of a stand-up threat. So, but I do think he has the cardio advantage in this one, definitely. Which is something he can which is something he can use. Path to victory for these two. Alright, so for William Knight, I'd probably like him to go to the grappling and the clinch early. Just look to control the clinch in general, same as you kind of did against Alexa Kamer. Be very cautious in round 1, because that's obviously his best round, and then he kind of slows after that. But yeah, just be very cautious on the feet. Look to clinch early, wear that gas tank out early. But for Alonzo Menifield, yeah, so look to kind of chain combinations together, because he's going to be leaning back or turning away. So if he's leaning back after that initial shot that you enter with, say, a left hook or a jab or something like that, then look to time one of your power punches, and after you get the read of, how far he's leaning back, stuff like that, because it's something he does in pretty much every striking situation. William Knight does. But yeah, just don't clinch up. There's not really, I get that that's your natural habit to do, and I don't expect him to not clinch in this fight, but I'd really prefer him not to. I just think he is such an advantage on the feet. Alright, so how I see this one going. Yeah, I don't see this one going the distance. Two very explosive dudes. Both have shown a bit of a suspect chin. But yeah, although I don't think Alonzo has looked great in his last 2 fights. I still don't rate him that highly, but I think he could beat William Knight pretty easily, just with his athleticism. That's kind of what William Knight relies on in his fights. He isn't very technically sound, in my opinion, and he kind of relies on his athleticism to pull off the techniques and the moves that he goes for, and I think that's going to be matched in this fight, but also Alonzo is just much better technically. So I think the athleticism is going to cancel each other out, and then Alonzo will just be much better technically, and that will kind of show throughout the duration of this fight. Also, not to mention that Alonzo's bigger, so yeah, I just think the athleticism is going to cancel each other out, and Alonzo's going to show he's just a better mixed martial artist in this one. And yeah, I'm not high on Alonzo, but I just think this is a good matchup for him. And yeah, I just think if he doesn't do anything stupid, he can get an easy dub here. Alright, so the prediction is Alonzo Menifield. I think he gets him out of there in round 1. I think it stays on the feet. I don't think they get into a grappling exchange. I think he gets him out of there early in round 1. And it just kind of shows how uncomfortable William Knight is on the feet as Menifield walks him down and kind of puts it on him early. Yeah, so this is the betting line, so it's about a pick 'em at the moment. I think I'm a bit more confident in Alonzo, or I have a bit more faith in Alonzo than a lot of other people do. I think he's kind of got a bad rap, maybe deservingly, as a bit of a flake, a bit of a front runner. But yeah, we'll see. I think this is a good matchup for him. But yeah, I put 4 units on it. I probably wouldn't go that high in retrospect. I think I was just surprised that he was a dog, because I favour the line at I favour Alonzo to win this fight around 65 to 70% of the time. Which is, yeah, pretty confident in a guy who has shown a bit of tendency to be a bit of a flake. So, I believe I went too big, with 4 units. If I were to go again, I'd probably just put either 2 to 3 units on it. But I just thought this is a really good matchup for him after tape, and I was very confident in Alonzo. But yeah, I've just been burned by flakes a bit recently, so I'm trying to limit my exposure to him a little bit. And yeah, I'd probably, if I could take that bet again, I'd probably go a little bit lower in the unit size.